connection, mobile audio connection. There was a day video was nothing that you could think of. There was a day whereby the way of talking was through a letter that was coming after 21 days. But now you can literally talk to your family members on a regular, on video, on audio. It doesn't make it easier, but at least it doesn't make it less painful and less straining, it makes it easier. So, long distance marriages exist. They exist. And in case you find yourself here, some people, they walk into it already long distance. Some of them, you could be working together with, you could be staying in the same house together with your partner. And then 5 years down the line, your partner gets a promotion. What are you going to do? Like, hey, I've been called to somewhere else. So one of the things that you can get to do is have a joint vision and purpose. Where are we going? Purpose, as we saw yesterday, vision inspires effort. Are we in this? Where are we going? Okay, we're still in this. It's just that right now you're in a situation whereby you're going far, you're working far, or I'm working far. So what are we doing? Have that situation whereby we're thinking long term and this is where it is that you're going. So that's point number one. Point number two, remember this, that you can be living together and still in a long distance marriage. You know, the couple not living in the same house in the long distance marriage. So emotional connection is not pegged on physical location. Literally, there are couples right now in a long distance, I'm not saying over here, but I'm just saying there are couples who are living in the same house, sleeping on the same bedroom, and in a long distance relationship. Because they're not connected. But there are those ones who are far apart, miles away, but the emotional bond. These guys are connected. They're laughing, they're talking. So what's the key thing there? Remember that even in a long distance marriage, physically distant, you can still have an emotional connection. How do you do it? Talk regularly, bond regularly, ideally video calls, see each other and all these things. Another thing that you can get to do, point number three, when it comes to point number three, when you get stuff, vent to each other. Have that person in your life whereby you can be like, when you're talking to your spouse, you're like, hey, Mazi, I miss you. I miss spending time with you. This thing is so, but I just have someone to vent to. Because if you suppress that feeling, it's a kusumbua. So vent. So you can encourage each other like, oh, you know what, baby, it's okay. You know, I know it's difficult right now. Let's give each other X amount. So that's very, very important. Vent to each other. Vent to each other. Number 4, be extremely naughty. And especially because you're in a distance relationship, be naughty. Keep the fire alive. Keep the chemistry alive. What's lacking is the physical touch. But what can still be there is you two being naughty together. You can be naughty. You can be like, my goodness, today I was just thinking about you. I was just thinking of that other time that was happening. Like, oh my goodness, I miss my switch pie. I miss my joystick. In case you're a woman and you're trying to communicate about it, whatever. I miss what you just talk about these things, so that now you both of you start to feel like, I am still being desired. I am still being missed. Number 5, get to pray together. You know, prayer doesn't have to be physical. When you're physically together, you can pray together over the phone. You can be like, hey, shall we pray? Like, for example, it can be his day to pray today, the wife prays tomorrow, and then like that, you alternate. That way, you still keep the family altar warm and on fire, even though there's physical distance. Very, very important. And then point number 6, don't keep it long term for too long. Have a strategy. You know, maybe it's gonna be long distance, let's say for 5 years, or for 2 years, or for 3 years. And after that, then we can at least see either you come to where I am or I come to where you are. So don't keep it long distance for too long. Because when there's a target, it's easier to reach. But when it's indefinite, it might pose a challenge. So imagine telling yourselves, you know what, for the next 4 years, for the next 5 years, we shall sacrifice. You're going to sacrifice. And we shall see each other maybe twice in a year, 3 times in a year, 4 times in a year, 6 times in a year, because there are some even in Kenya, they're working in different counties. There are some who perhaps your spouse is working in, let's say, Mombasa, or maybe perhaps employed whereby they're working in a station, maybe in South Sudan or something like that. So these situations are there. So agree. This is a 5-year situation, and we shall be meeting each other X amount of times in a year as frequently as possible. And when you do come, when you do physically meet, make sure it's an amazing time. So by the time you go back, you miss it. When you do have time together, you're like, whoa, we've missed each other, we're bonding, we're connecting, and all. Number 7, do not compare yourself with a couple. Don't be like, oh, well, because you're walking a unique journey, different from other couples' journey. Please, don't compare yourself with a couple. Remember, as we saw yesterday, every couple has a unique testimony. This is your unique testimony, so please, do not be able to do not be able to be discouraged about that. And as you saw, for example, there's a gentleman who was saying like sex is one of the love languages. Just as you saw it, that when you have scarcity of something, you value it. You know, as opposed to maybe perhaps you're somewhere you're like you can get it any single time, you're like but now when you're getting it in not as frequent times, you get value. So when you do get to it, please make sure that the making love is amazing. It is beautiful. You make up for it. You make up for it. You make up for all of that. And then number 10, I think it should be number 10. Please be accountable. What do I mean? Whenever you're doing something on the other side, let your spouse know, even without your spouse asking. Just let your spouse know, by the way, I've gone for a walk, XYZ, and then you can even be very generous in taking photos. Oof, just check out, I've seen this. Involve your spouse in your life. That way you build trust. Because trust is what is holding this relationship together. Build trust. But once you start, your spouse is calling, you're not picking up the call for the next 5 hours, you're not doing this, all these things, or funny things are happening, so your spouse starts becoming suspicious. And yet, imagine you told your spouse, I'm going for a work meeting, we shall be in for about 5 hours, I love you, talk to you later. So even your spouse knows within the next 5 hours, you shall be unreachable. As opposed to you, I'm a man, I'm a woman, I do not need to report. Marriage is about accountability. And accountability is willingly sharing information without being asked. Because whatever happens to you, happens to your spouse. So if you can be generous with information, generous with like photos and sharing, imagine I'm just trying to cook ugali in this country. Even you have a good laugh. All that kind of stuff. I found this thing I did not know that they have Royco in this country. Awesome. So your spouse feels like, I'm still in your life. We're still together. We're still catching up. We're still bonding. We're still bonding. And as I said, love is unique. Love has different stories to tell. So this is your story. Write it well. And I hope that you two are going to grow in that long distance. If you're in one right now, or if you ever get in one, it doesn't mean that your marriage is less of a marriage. It just means that your marriage is having a unique season and a unique story being written. And you two will make it just like any other couple. And as I said, I repeat again, long distance is not so much about physical, it's more emotional. You can be in the same house with somebody and you're emotionally distant. But far apart, but you're emotionally connected. So please, let's safeguard it. Thank you very much.
Wow.